Good afternoon. It is about
Good
4
afternoon.
o'clock in the afternoon, and
Yes.
we are here to interview another success story in the Native American entrepreneurial world. And I want to take a moment and thank Cecilia Pacheco, our program manager, for being in the background and helping us record this and get it all squared away that way. And at the end of the video, we'll be able to, you'll find, well, actually in the description of the video, you'll find some contact information for UNM and for our guest, Denise Gabaldon-Thronas, and myself as well. So if you want to reach out to us, then that would be fine. But we are here to, as I said, share another success story. That's basically what we're doing as we record these success stories, just trying to capture the journey and the ups and downs, the successes, the challenges that our entrepreneurs face along the way, and hopefully encourage and help fellow entrepreneurs, fellow Native American entrepreneurs, as they take that same journey. Many of them are already on the journey. Others are about to take the journey, and some are contemplating the journey, and maybe with trepidity and fear. And so we want to just help our Native entrepreneurs so that our communities will benefit from the existence of these businesses or other entrepreneurial ventures. And so we're thankful to have the opportunity. I want to introduce our guest this afternoon to us. Her name is Dr. Denise Gabaldon-Thronas. She is living in Ohkay, Owingeh, Pueblo, just up the road from Santa Clara, Pueblo, where I'm from, but she's also part Taos in her bloodline as well. And she is a Doctor of Naprapathic Medicine. And she is practicing in the Santa Fe and Los Alamos areas as a contract doctor right now. And she's also done some work with the Southwest and is still doing work with Southwest University of Naprapathic Medicine as a professor, teaching Naprapathic medicine courses to the cohorts that are going through the doctorate program there. And so I'm going to let her tell you about her business, but basically she's trying to treat the pain and stress that many of us experience in our lives without the use of prescription medicine through her practice of Naprapathic medicine. And so let's turn to Denise and find out more about her. And so Denise, why don't you say a word to everybody that's listening, and then introduce your practice to us.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Denise Gabaldon-Thronas, and I'm from Ohkay, Owingeh. I've lived here all my life. I do have a Bachelor of Science degree from NMSU, New Mexico State University, in biochemistry. And a lot of people ask me how I became a naprapathic doctor and really what is naprapathic medicine. So naprapathic medicine is musculoskeletal health. We're very similar to chiropractic in that we're all about aligning the spine and trying to optimize the flow of fluids and neural pathways. And neural pathways are like from your brain to your spinal cord, and then your spinal cord outwards. And even though that's an electrical system, it needs fluids to make that journey. So that's what I do. I align spines and look at tissue health and really try to get a person to optimize their tissue health. So a lot of us don't know what causes inflammation. inflammation is really done through diet, stress, and lack of sleep, and not enough water. So my job is to really educate a person about their particular issues and then help them through their journey as well. So I mentioned that I was a biochemist before I became a naprapath. And so you do need a Bachelor of Science in a related field to become a naprapathic doctor. And I started my journey by being a patient. I suffered a back injury in 2011, and I went to the doctor like all of us do. They couldn't explain to me why I had this back spasm and what caused it. So I got the normal medication, which was a pain reliever and a muscle relaxant. And I am not about taking drugs. So I wanted to make sure I understood what had changed. I've never had back problems in my life. I think I don't even know how old I was at the time, but I had met a naprapathic doctor. He had come to, I worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory. So he had come for a stress relief day. That's where a lot of the healthcare providers come and they tell you what they can offer you. It's also during the time that we can make changes to our healthcare plans. And so he came and gave me a 10-minute treatment, and I felt amazing afterwards. So I kept his card. I didn't call him until 2 years later when I had this back spasm. And I called his office and said, could you help me kind of figure out what happened? And so the final thing out of all of it was that I had changed my job from being in the lab and walking around and doing a lot of stuff where I'm standing more so than sitting. I went to a different job where I was constantly sitting, and I was becoming a manager and not getting up and around as much. And that's what caused the change. So for me, my body liked the fact that I was moving a lot and was staying healthy. And once I started sitting, I did not like that at all. So had to start really consciously making time for breaks, starting to exercise more, starting to drink more water, just being really aware of the choices I was making. Sometimes as a manager, you're running from place to place, but not actually running. You're making calls, you're trying to make sure that people are covered. You may not get lunch, right? You might have to work late hours, so you're not eating regularly. So a lot of stresses were happening in my life. And so that's what caused it. I started being treated by him, and I really understood the philosophy, being Native American, about the whole holistic way of healing. And so he kept asking me what I was doing with my career, because my job at that time was very, very stressful, and it didn't give me a lot of time to spend with family. I always used to do out for the labs as a Native American professional. So I would go on recruiting trips. I would do a lot of neat things in the Native American communities. And with this new job, I wasn't able to do that. I basically was at work all the time. And so a lot of the things that gave me joy were now being taken away, not because of punishment. It was just because the job required me to be at work a lot more. This was high profile work. So, we had to be successful as a laboratory. So that's when I felt like my stress was really going out of whack. And so he kind of just kept asking me, what I was doing with my life and all this stuff. And so he offered he said that I could become a naprapathic doctor. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, how could I do this? I don't know anything about manual medicine. I have never even thought of that. I had thought about being a doctor, but a different doctor. I looked into nuclear medicine. I looked into like being a radiologist, because it was kind of similar to what I was studying as an inorganic chemist. And so I was looking at things that were more related to that type of medicine. Never thought I'd be an MD, because I don't think that that was, my calling. So he just kept at me. I was patient in 2011. I finally agreed that I would sit on a couple courses in 2016. And then after that, a lot of in those 5 years, a lot of my family was having medical issues. I had lost a couple of family members very close to me due to what I call medical, I wouldn't say that it was like malicious, right? I think it was just that my family was another number. They were not really providing treatment to my family members, knowing their history. And so I felt like they just didn't get the care that they needed, right? And so, and a lot of times your patients aren't always honest, with when you're asking them questions. But there are indicators that kind of tell you, well, hey, I might need to look in this area or ask them a question about this instead of that. And so I just felt like, they weren't getting the good medical care that they deserved. And so
if I could interject,
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like your family members, they were maybe their care providers thought they had done all that they could with them, and so they sort of gave up on them in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw an opportunity to look at some other avenues with them.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of it to do with the fact that most people want a pill to get better. And a lot of us know that in order to really heal, you have to do the work. That work may be changing lifestyle. It might mean doing exercise, whether it's a little bit of exercise. We know that with chronic pain, our mental health isn't good. We just don't feel like doing anything because it hurts too much. And so what I do now is really try to lower that pain level so that people can move. And once we start moving, you start getting the feel-good drugs, the ones that you make naturally that motivate you to do better, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. And so that's when I said, these doctors aren't listening to me. I had because of my biochem degree, I have a lot of information about how the body works. And so a lot of times I was just kind of butting heads with the doctors because they were like, oh dear, she has a lot of information. I don't really want to talk. I can't really explain it at the level that she needs. So a lot of times I was just like, a pain in their side, I felt like. And so I decided, well, in order to have credibility, I do need to become a doctor, and that's when Dr. Nuzzo just found me at the same time that I was looking for that. And he told me I could go to school full time in the evenings and I could work full time. So for me, that was I thought that was a good balance, although I didn't realize how much work I was going to have to do, right? So again, it's a 3-year accelerated program, so you don't get any breaks. As soon as one set of courses are done, usually 5 to 6 classes a quarter, then you're on to your next set. It's very fast paced, and you get I would say experience right away in the manual piece of the profession. So you want to know right away whether you're going to be able to do this type of work or not. The other thing that you want to make sure is that you have a good record, because if you have any kind of things that could not allow you to get a medical license in the state of New Mexico, then you're not a candidate for a doctoral program. So I think that's something to remind folks that, you have to really look at your lifestyle to see if you're able to pass all these gates, because you really are entrusted with a person's well-being, and that's a big responsibility. And so I basically went through the program. During that time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and she was really my biggest supporter, really trying to get me to go ahead and go through the program. She passed away in 2018, so it's really for me to finish. I finished in 2019. I took a break from work and I kept going to school because I couldn't do both at the same time. So I took a leave of absence from work and then continued with my education. Finally finished in 2019, got my medical board license in 2020 in April, and that's around the time, you know, we had the big COVID incident.
Yeah.
And so I was still working because our type of work is critical. It's an essential business because we deal with pain management, back pain being one of the leading symptoms that people have in the country is their backs hurt. So we were open, and it was a very slow start. I had to be my own business right away because I'm a contract doctor. So I have to have my own mouse insurance. I have to have my own tax ID. I'm a 1099 employee. And so that was really new to me. I had been at the Los Alamos National Laboratory for 24 years and never had to think about, self-employment tax, FICA, all that stuff. You know, it was always taking care of me. I just showed up to work. And now I had to make that transition of making decisions on my new business, you know. And at first, I was just my goals were just to be a doctor, just gain as much information, continue to treat patients. There's other doctors that work at the clinic, so collaboration was really important for me in case I got cases that were very tough. You know, how was I going to resolve this? And I'm used to working in a team environment. At the lab, I worked on high performance teams. And so I know when I'm out of my element, right, that I don't know something, I got to go and find out what that is. Being an entrepreneur, I was definitely out of my element. I had no idea how I was going to get that knowledge. And through talking with folks, our university, Southwest University of Naprapathic Medicine, has partnered with Arrowhead from NMSU. And then I started becoming a member of the American Indian Business and Entrepreneurs. And that's where I met Mr. Scott here. I was given his name, and I thought that it was great to have a mentor, right? A mentor that would kind of help guide me in areas that I did not even know where to start. And so just taking those business essential classes was great, you know, just getting knowledge about that. But again, I think what has always made me successful is surrounding myself with a community of people that will help me get to where I need to go. And so one thing that I talked to Scott about once we got connected was having someone that I had to be accountable to, not just myself, but somebody else that I had to have a discussion with, checking in, you know, just saying, you know, I said I was going to make this meeting and get this information, and did I do it? You know,
Right.
if I count on I probably would have said, nah, maybe next week, you know. Maybe I'll have time next week.
Right.
So that was really, I think, vital in my journey, was really to talk to somebody about it, and somebody who had accessible knowledge of other resources. And I continue to do that. You know, Scott is kind of like my the main person that I talk to, but there's other people that I'm in constant contact with, CPAs, lawyers, you know, accounting, just regular accounting people, other entrepreneurs, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If somebody figured this out already, then it's really to my advantage to take hold of that information and then try to translate it into my field. There's not a lot of Native American doctors that on their own. A lot of them are working for Indian Health, they're working for a hospital. I definitely am not that kind of doctor, and I don't want to be that kind of doctor, because I really want to be able to provide care that I feel that a person needs. Sometimes when you're attached with those kinds of agencies, you're limited in what you can provide to your patients, and time being the main thing. There's a quota that you have to meet, and And for me, it's really establishing relationships and really being there for that patient. I'm also a doctor that does research. So if I don't know exactly what it is, I will find out for you. And if I'm not the expert, I will point you to a resource that you can go to as well. And I think that's really how medicine should be done, is that we are there for our patients, and really being honest with them so that they can make better choices in regard to their health, because it's really their health. I'm just a member of that team to help them along.
Right, right. Well, that's great. That's great. Well, you have shared a lot of your story with us already, and haven't had to ask you many questions because you're already answering some of the questions that I was going to ask. And so that's great. That's great. I have had the opportunity, as Denise said, to work a little bit with Denise, but this is, I think, the first face-to-face conversation that we've actually
Yeah,
had.
this is. Yes, yeah, we're usually on the phone talking.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's great. Well, as you think about your story, and I appreciate you sharing so much of your story already. Let me go back and capture, because I believe your business is located on the reservation at Ohkay, right?
Yes, it is. I don't
And so,
have it's run out of my home right now.
uh-huh. Okay. And so what was your reasoning for wanting to be located there?
Well, my target population that I'm trying to really help the Native American population. And so I think you have to be close enough so that people don't have to travel too far. Right now, I don't have a bricks and mortar building, but I'm working on that because I think it's, real important to partner even with other practitioners. Maybe they're not doing the same thing you are, but they offer something else. And integrative health is usually I gravitate towards, because I feel like I'm new to the profession. I've only been a naprapathic doctor for a little over 3.5 years. I'm very much into nutrition because the tissue has to be healthy in order for permanent, or I should say longer, pain relief, right? For that to happen, you have to have good tissue health. And that only happens through diet and exercise. There's no other way. And I don't mean like you're on a certain kind of diet. I just mean the food that you're giving yourself has to be living food. It can't be processed food. It has to feed you like your spirit, right? Everything's living. You feed yourself, and that gives you more nutrition than something from a package that you can put in the microwave, right? So those are things that I think really need to be emphasized when you're talking to people about nutrition. Because I always use the example of, I feel like I'm a very expensive car, right? I love Porsche, right? So in my mind, I'm a very fast race car, a Porsche car, and I'm not going to put crappy fuel in myself, right? I'm going to use good fuel because I want to run well. And then when I have to run fast or speed, I'm going to speed, right? If I have to slow down quickly, I want to make sure that I can put the brakes on. And so those are the things that we have to do for our bodies, is got to give ourselves good food, good rest, really take care of our mental health in order to be that for ourselves. And oftentimes we take care of others maybe better than we take care of ourselves. And it's just really kind of going back to that. Our ancestors definitely knew how to feast, knew how to eat, and they didn't make things complicated. It's very simple, basic things. They grew their own food. They knew who from. They cared for that food. And we have to go back to that because it's too convenient to go to the store or to go stop at a fast food place and get something to eat. And is it really feeding us? Probably not, We're not getting a lot of nutrition. I call it filler material. And if
Yeah, and
we,
as a
yeah,
as a scientist, I'm thinking you have some real insight to the reality of what you're talking about, how natural,
mhm.
fresh food is more nutritious for us than processed food.
Right. And I have had that probably since I was real little. I grew up, my grandparents farmed, you know, we had chickens, we had pigs, we had cows. So I know what good food tastes like, you know, and
Mm.
I say that a lot, that sometimes in New Mexico, and it's just because I live here, I say that we eat cardboard because it has no flavor, no texture. It kind
Oh
of all
yeah,
looks the same. So again, you know,
yeah.
the more colors of the rainbow that you can have on your plate, the better off that you are, you know. And so trying to teach that to the younger generation so that they can keep themselves healthy and not have to fall into the system of, you know, prescription medication or being under constant pain, or, you know, really treat your body well. And it's so funny because my grandmother used to say that, you know, be good to your body when you're young, because when you get old, you're going to be reminded of what you did to it.
Yeah, right, right. Well, let me go back and ask a couple of questions related to your business journey a little bit.
Okay.
One of them has to do with, you mentioned, you know, we were talking about your business being located on the Pueblo there, and I'm wondering what's your take on the benefit of even other types of native owned businesses on our, in our native communities, and the benefit that that would bring to our communities.
Well, I think the benefit is there's a few benefits, right? So if you're a business that uh, could employ other people, right? Like you have employees that could start working for you. You start adding to the economics of that area. If you're good at what you do, right, you give reputation, credibility to your area, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's what we need to show. We're very smart and intelligent, resourceful people in our tribes, and I think a lot of time that gets overlooked. You know, we've survived a lot in our lifetimes, and we need to be proud of that. We are engineers and scientists and businessmen and women from, you know, time immemorial,
Mm. Mhm.
because we used to do that trading, we do craft. I always tell people, you know, if you know a good artist, you know a good scientist, you know a good engineer, because they know how to wield their whatever element they're working with, right?
Uh-huh.
They know how to do that because they have all the scientific knowledge. Beaters, weavers, they're the best mathematicians, right? And we don't recognize that,
Mm.
you know, because it is difficult to do spatial math, and that's what they're doing in their heads. And
Uh,
they can see it, right? And we're just like, wow, I can't even think about this. But you compare it to different types of math that we get taught in school, and you'll know the ones that have a hobby of, hey, I'm a beater as well as a, you know, coming to school here, and they get it just like that. And here I am struggling, right? So
yeah.
again, you know, we
Mm.
don't really recognize the knowledge that we all have. And so I think that's what's cool about being an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur on your tribe, you don't pay state taxes, right? That's a benefit in itself. And so you still pay federal, but again, just any little thing that you can keep in your pocket, right, and still
Mhm.
contribute to the economy is a great thing.
Mhm.
So again, you know, just really trying to outline those benefits. You also are a role model. You're a role model to the younger generation that it can be done. I think
Mhm.
once you own your own business, you don't want to have a boss. You're your boss, yeah. You're your own boss, and you can make decisions. I think it's always good to surround yourself with people that can help you stay true to your goals.
Mm.
Because sometimes, I know for me personally, I think I heard this one time when they were talking about entrepreneurs, is that you tend to open other little businesses as you go along the way, right? Because you're trying to maybe put down barriers, and then you see like, well, if I could do this way, then it would be less time, less money, right? So then you start creating other little ideas and other businesses that can be more efficient. So you become more efficient in the way things are run. And I think that's a benefit to your community, because again, you're teaching that to other people and then giving them confidence to go out on their own. A lot of people ask me too, you know, gosh, you worked at the lab for 24 years. Why didn't you just retire from there? And I was like, no, my job is not to just think about me. As a Native person, it's about what I leave behind for my community. How am I going to improve my community when I go, right? And so my gift is to help others, right? To help people, to help them figure out for themselves what they need to do to live a better life. And that will be my legacy. I said, it's not about the money I put in my bank. It's about, you know, how I treat people, how I make things better. You know, maybe I inspire other people.
Right.
I definitely have had a lot of inspirational, inspirational teachers, family members, my grandparents, my mother, right? They were all inspiring to me. And so it's up to me to keep that going.
Right, right. So I hear you saying it's about quality of life and purpose, not just about the dollars that we can earn and the material, you know, possessions or blessings that we can acquire or receive, you know. So that's great. As you're thinking about your journey, I'm wondering, one question, and there's so many good questions I could ask you, you know, but let me ask a couple of questions, then I'll get to the third one. In terms of your journey, what were some wins along the way that really helped you to keep on going as you were on this journey?
I think really meeting people who were having the same challenges as me, kind of realizing that if we put all of our heads together, we could solve an issue, right? So I always like to celebrate the little things, right? So one of the biggest things was as a student, there's a business part of our education, like being out on your own. And one of the things that we had to do is develop a website, develop a name for ourselves. And that was always really difficult for me to think about. You know, I'm not a good marketer of myself, but so I kind of put that on the back burner. And then I started meeting with other entrepreneurs and saw how they were using their inspiration in their lives to really develop those, like the name, the logos, and all that stuff. And so I really learned from them, and I was able to finally settle on a name. And then I was able to have help with a logo. So for me, that was like a big win. I'm not a social media person. So just doing, I would be part of a video for someone else. And that was a win for me because it gave me a little more confidence to now start doing that for myself, right? So giving me a little bit more experience, I think has been where my little wins are, in an area that I totally feel like I said, out of my, I'm like a fish out of water.
Right. Well, you know, it's been said, we need a team if we're really going to succeed, if we're going to go to the highest level that we can do it. We can't get there ourselves. And so what I hear you saying is that you found some other people along the way to either inspire you or to help you to come up with some solutions and solve some problems that you were facing along the way. And so that's great. So what about challenges? What do you think the biggest challenge has been for you?
I think because I'm a pretty good planner, I think some of the thing that I had to really accept was that if I had to change my plan, it wasn't because I failed at it. It was because I gained more knowledge and I had to tweak it, right? So I had this set plan. I was going to open my own business, have a bricks and mortar place. I was going to start seeing patients. I was going to write all these grants so that I would make it affordable to people who didn't have insurance and all this stuff. And I was like, boy, I'm going to spend a lot of time developing that. And how long is it going to take me, right? This is like my second career. I made that change in my life when I turned 51, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was like, I don't have a lot of time. So then my plan had to change. So now it's not about opening my own practice. It's developing other Native American doctors so that we can come up with an integrative health center, right? So that means other people helping develop this vision that I have. So right now I'm meeting with other practitioners that have the same vision, and now we're going to pull together. And then
Okay.
my job is to recruit naprapaths, right? That's my field. And the reason why I became a doctor was because I wanted to make sure that I knew what that meant. I could have said, oh, well, I'm just trying to recruit naprapaths. I really don't know what they do. It's a cool field, but I didn't really think it was for me, and I didn't do it myself. I mean, that's not a good answer. So I said, I have to become a naprapath to say that this is really a cool field. This is something that it's a lifetime of learning, right? And when we give ourselves a purpose like that, it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding for us because we want to accomplish something. And so, so now I can say it was a great journey. That's why I left my job, right?
Yeah.
Because it was pulling me so much to be a healthcare provider. And then finding out in my journey that I come from, my Taos family members come from they were healthcare people, right? They were bone setters, they were herbalists. I didn't know all of them, but I know that that's part of my heritage, and I'm falling in line with that. When I told my family that I still have in Taos that I was becoming a doctor, they were so happy for me. And they said, you're going to just be like our grandmas, right? And I was like, really? And so I started finding out more about that side, right? And so again, it's just everything I feel that I've done in my life has led me to these moments that I'm having. And so things are much easier, even though they're harder, if you can understand that. Because I'm really following my path. And it's great to finally understand what that is,
Right. Well, I think that's awesome. And again, it's so important, I think, for us to understand the fact that as we make changes in our life path, we need to be running to something, not running away from something. I think we've all made that mistake sometimes in the past, where we've run away from maybe a situation, or made a decision to make a change in our life, vocationally or otherwise, and we were actually running away from something rather than running toward something better. If that makes sense. And
no, it does. Yeah, I think that's been kind of a clue in my whole career, even at the lab, was that when something was really challenging and I was like really fearful of doing something, like I knew I could do it, but I was afraid of failure. I did it anyway, right? That's called courage. You have fear, but you know that you have to still do it. That really gives you a lot of courage to do something that you've never done before. And I think that's the big lesson I've learned in my life, is I've always been the first to do things, right? And that's okay, because somebody has to make that step, and hopefully I will leave something that will make it easier for others to make those changes. I have met with some of my colleagues that have left their professions, maybe even high school classmates, and they're doing something totally different, right? And so it's great to have those people because they understand what you go through, and if you're not happy where you're at, and you're making, you're making a lot of money or whatever, and you're still not happy, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
I think that's what we have to listen to a lot of times, and they have done a lot of studies and interviews with people that have, that are very successful, and they said, are you happier now that you make so much more money now than you did when you were at that level? And they were like, no, I'm not happier. It's kind of the same thing. And so
Yeah.
again, I think that's what we have to, we have to have a different measure of success, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been great. I think we're about out of time, but it's
Okay.
been a full time of learning about you and your journey, and I think an inspiration. One of the thoughts that was coming to my mind as you were sharing just now was the fact that it's you talked about having the courage, and sometimes we don't think of ourselves as having the right personality type to be an entrepreneur. And maybe there's some folks that have a natural bent to taking risk in their life, but I think it's healthy for all of us to develop that, and maybe even the entrepreneurial path is one where even if we might not think of ourselves as a likely candidate, or that's a path that we've thought about, maybe it's something worthwhile for us to consider. If that's the only thing keeping us from it is that fear of some kind. And so I just thank you for sharing, and I hope that folks will reach out to you for additional inspiration, and especially for, again, maybe there's more naturopathic doctors out there in the wings that would look to
Yeah.
you for some
I hope so.
support and come
Yeah.
on board with the same vocational choice that you've made. But I thank you for being with us this afternoon, and making this this interview possible, sharing your story with us, and I hope that we'll have many, many more. I want to thank UNM as well for making this possible, and taking the initiative, Cecilia, and everybody there at UNM with the Tribal Entrepreneurial Enhancement Program that is putting on these success stories. And thank everybody for doing that. And just a reminder that the contact information for UNM and for Denise, and even for myself, will be available in the details when you pull this video up to look at it. But again, thank you for being with us, Denise. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to speak to you as well. And thank you for your support.
You're welcome.